This is Steve Jones. He set the marathon world record in Chicago in 1984 before lowering his personal best to 2:07:13 the following year, a time that would stand as the British record for 33 years. He worked full-time as an aircraft technician for the Royal Air Force alongside running and enjoyed a drink. In the build-up to Chicago in 1985, he also set the half marathon world record in Birmingham after 5 or 6 pints of cider at his best friend's wedding the night before, and counted his dietary staples as meat pies, Coca-Cola, and Mars bars. This is Emile. He is Britain's best marathoner today. Caresse trains with renowned Italian coach Renato Canova, spending large chunks of time at altitude in Kenya. His training is tailored precisely to him in every small detail. He is conscious of his diet, with chicken, rice and broccoli as staples, and he benefits from modern super shoes that studies show give an efficiency benefit of at least 3%. Despite all of this, he has only run 27 seconds quicker than his compatriot from 40 years ago, Steve Jones. This is Robert de Castella. He held the world record in the marathon before Jones, running 2:08:18 in Fukuoka in 1981. He also worked full-time throughout his career as a biophysicist for the Australian Institute of Sport. And he also enjoyed a beer, allegedly worrying the director of the Boston Marathon by having 2 beers at the pre-race dinner in 1986, before going on to lower the Australian record still further the next day to 2:07:51. And this is Brett Robinson, the man who finally bettered de Castella's Aussie record 41 years after he first set it. Robinson has been a full-time professional athlete for more than 12 years, training alongside world-class runners such as Stuart McSwain. This phenomenon appears to be present around the world. In many Western countries, 40 years of advances in sports science, training and nutrition appear to have had little effect, with only the advent of super shoes finally seeing today's runners surpass the times of their 1980s compatriots within the last 5 years or so. Which brings us to the question, why were Steve Jones, Rob de Castella and their contemporaries so good at running marathons? And why do today's top runners in the UK, Australia and even the US struggle to run faster than they did when the 80s runners were disadvantaged by working full-time and having little understanding of sports science and nutrition? In today's video, we are going to delve into the secret of those 1980s legends and how their training and racing styles compare to the athletes of today. Steve Jones is undoubtedly the best place to start. The Welshman grew up in a very working-class area of the country, in the Welsh valleys above Newport, and that attitude of having to work hard for a living played into his champion mentality as a runner. He started running aged 15 and focused on racing the 5 and 10,000 metres during his 20s, culminating in an 8th place finish over 10,000 metres at the 1984 Olympics. And while he wasn't setting the world alight on the track, the type of training he was doing was callousing his mind, leading to a mental toughness that would serve him well in the marathon in future. Jones didn't run particularly high mileage, but every run he did was hard, very hard. A typical training week for Jones during the winter would look something like this. 10 miles in the morning, followed by 10 miles in the afternoon on Mondays. A fartlek workout on Tuesday mornings, usually something like 4 times 5 minutes hard, followed by 10 miles in the afternoon. A cross-country race for the RAF team on Wednesday afternoon. A hill workout on Thursday mornings, followed by 10 miles in the afternoon. 8 miles in the morning on Fridays with 10 in the afternoon. A cross-country race for his club, Newport Harriers, on Saturday. And finally, a 20-mile long run to finish off the week on a Sunday. On the face of it, that might not look too extreme. There is a lot of intensity with 2 workouts and 2 races, but the overall volume is lower than most elite marathoners, sitting between 80 to 90 miles a week and never exceeding 100. But the kicker here is that Jones did all of his running outside of workouts and races at 5-minute to 5-minute 30 mile pace. All of it. Over hills, through ploughed fields, It didn't matter. Jones went hard every time he stepped out of the door. Now this goes against most of what we think we know about training in the modern world, where Zone 2 running on easy days is the accepted method of allowing the body to recover and adapt to harder stimulus, and to prevent injury. But Jones didn't care about any of that. He just ran as hard as he could. And that was the mentality many of the top British runners at the time took. Rival Charlie Spedding never ran slower than 6 minutes a mile, while maintaining a weekly volume well over 100 miles. And despite everything, this approach paid off for them. At his peak, Jones ran 3 consecutive marathons either under or within a minute of the world record at the time, from Chicago 1984 to the same race in 1985. He also set the half marathon world record in Birmingham that year, running 1:01:14 on that famous hungover day in Birmingham, and finished his career with 4 major marathon wins spanning London, New York, and Chicago. Being able to train at such a high intensity year-round was clearly a key factor in Jones' success. And it wasn't just the Brits doing it that way. An analysis of De Castella's training shows a similar pattern. The Australian didn't run his easy runs at quite the same intensity as Jones, but he would include 3 or 4 workouts, sometimes a cross-country race, and a hard, hilly 22-mile long run within a year-round training week approaching the 140 miles a week mark. This was incredibly hard training. If we compare him to the man who finally broke his Australian record in 2022, Brett Robinson, the difference is stark. Robinson runs less mileage and at significantly lower intensities. He will reach 200 kilometres or 125 miles per week in key weeks leading up to marathons, but certainly doesn't hold anything close to that volume throughout the year. When not in marathon training, he does 2 comparatively light workouts per week, usually something like 8 times 1K on the track and a 30-minute threshold run, with a slow long run at weekends. In his most recent marathon block, he seems to have alternated between 1 week with 2 marathon-specific workouts or long runs, with the rest of his running easy, all slower than 4 minutes per kilometre, or between 6:30 and 7 minutes per mile, and 1 week with just a single hard long run and no specific workouts. The difference between the marathon stars of the 1980s and the top runners of today, then, appears clear. It is simple, good old hard training. But why were those men able to absorb such difficult training and use it to run times that their compatriots struggle to match today? The cynics might point to the fact that doping was widespread in the 1980s, with less stringent testing than now, seeing steroids and human growth hormone especially used to aid recovery and muscle development. But while it's impossible to say either way whether these marathoners were benefiting from pharmaceutical help, stories of doping were more prevalent amongst shorter distance athletes. EPO, the distance runner's drug of choice, had yet to be developed, and then you just have the question of whether someone eating meat pies and Mars bars regularly would bother to dope. As such, there is likely a bigger reason, and that reason is the running culture that existed in the 1970s and 80s. The running boom of the 1980s saw high levels of club membership in the UK, but with a crucial difference to the running boom of today. Whereas today's surge in popularity is based around running being open and inclusive to all, and is seen within the sphere of general wellness, in the 70s and 80s, it was all about competing, with well-organised and well-attended local track and cross-country races everywhere, and real rivalries building between clubs. In the 1970s, every marathoner ran 100 miles a week, trained with good quality runners from their club, and raced every week. This depth at the top end is reflected in the stats. In 1983, 102 Britons broke 2:20 in the marathon, and 14 men ran under 2:15. These numbers have not been surpassed since, and in the last year pre-Super Shoes, in 2015, only 1 man broke 2:15 in the marathon. That depth at the sub-elite level meant there was always multiple men willing to train as hard as possible to become the best. Many would have succumbed to injury, but for the few who survived, greatness was possible. In contrast, falling interest in top-level running throughout the 1990s and 2000s meant there was just a smaller pool to choose from, and coaches naturally were more likely to hold their athletes back from overtraining to preserve the talent that was available. But all that might be about to change. That culture is reappearing, albeit in a slightly different form. Road racing, especially marathons, is more popular than ever before, and it is cool to treat it as a competition and try to do something impressive. There is more money in running than ever before, with diamond leagues offering higher prize money and challenger events such as Athlos and Grand Slam Track appearing. As popularity grows, so does the depth at the top. In 2025, 12 Britons have run sub 2:15 for the marathon so far. With the year not yet over, and the fastest race of them all, Valencia, approaching, it won't be long before the level of British marathoners once again reaches that of the 1980s. Young runners are doing more than ever before to improve their performance, embracing new and heavier training, and focusing on every small aspect of their life to optimise performance. Western runners are already once again able to compete for medals in distance events on the track, sweeping the podium in the 5K and winning gold and bronze in the 10K at the recent World Championships. As British, Australian, North American and European runners everywhere embrace the spirit of their 1980s forebears and look to take that success to the marathon, we might just see Western athletes start to podium and maybe even win major marathons over the coming years. And now I'd like to hear from you. What made the 1980s runners so good? And will we see modern athletes once again achieve the same success over the marathon? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe to catch more analysis like this throughout the winter months. Thanks for watching everyone, and see you in the next one.